Now, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has expressed his shock in person to an Ethiopian Israeli soldier who was beaten by the police, triggering violent protests on Sunday night. Mr. Netanyahu told Damas Pakada that the incident was unacceptable and changes needed to be made to put an end to violence and racism against Ethiopian Israelis. Well, during the demonstrations, at least 50 people were injured as police used tear gas and stun grenades to disperse protesters. Well, Avraham Neguise is currently the only member of the Israeli parliament of Ethiopian descent, has been meeting with Israel's Prime Minister a little earlier in the day. We are very, very grateful for your time here on the programme. I'll talk about that meeting in a moment, but just give me a sense, first of all, of the anger that is felt by Ethiopian Jews and Israelis on this particular issue.
Yes. The Ethiopian Jewish community today, there are 137,000, became proud citizens of Israel. And as we all know that, the Ethiopian Jewish community came from a traditional society to a modern technological society. As a result of that, the transition period is becoming very difficult and hard. And the process of integration into the society is a very challenging one. What we have seen yesterday is most of them the Israeli-born Israeli Ethiopians origin, and just as asking for improving of the social equality in Israel, in education, in employment, housing, and also the action of the police has to be also according to the law, not using an external or exercising a strong action.
I'll come back to some of those wider issues in a moment, but that meeting with the Prime Minister, give me a flavour of what Benjamin Netanyahu both said to the person in question who has been the centre of this, and also what he said about this issue.
Yes, the Prime Minister is very shocked on the situation when we explained to him all the problems, and then he invited the government representatives and the community representatives and the representatives of the demonstrators. So we had a very deeply discussions on these issues. And the Prime Minister, for 3 hours was a discussion. Finally, the Prime Minister said, we have to immediately start on addressing this issue. Therefore, he established a ministerial committee who will be, he is heading that ministerial committee to address all the problems that we raised.
One commentator in one of the papers today said racism in Israel's society is far more commonplace and far more toxic than we dare tell ourselves. I mean, in recent months, after the Charlie Hebdo attack in France, Benjamin Netanyahu was asking for Jews to come to Israel. Have people there in that country faced up that there is this problem in that country?
Oh yes, and Israel is a safe, it is a home for all Jewish, and that's why Israel exists and established before 67 years. And Israel, since its establishment, integrated millions of Jews, and one of them, I am one of the immigrants who received education here in Israel and reached to the Israeli parliament and becoming one of the lawmakers. Therefore, I joining the calling of the Prime Minister that every Jew has to want to come to Israel. It is his house, it is his home for every Jew from the four corners of the earth.
Well, Avraham Neguise, thank you very much for being with us here today. Thank you. Now, stay with